Supervisory Union Board of Directors meeting on Wednesday, March 27th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. And I'd like to open the nominations for Chair of the SVSU Board of Directors. Are there any nominations? Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any other nominations?
Else would like to try.
If not, nominations are closed. This is a single nomination. Does the board wish to vote, elect by acclamation or just saying aye? Is that okay with everybody? Okay. All those in favor of Scott McNair as chair of the Southwest Supervisory Union Board, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Abstaining?
Aye.
Abstain.
Time's over to you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we have next order of business is nominations for vice chair of the SVSU Board of Directors.
Who's vice chair or previous?
Was previous.
I was.
Do you want to serve?
Sure.
I'll nominate Nicole for vice chair.
We have a second,
I'll second.
multiple seconds. Any other nomination? Nominations are closed. Single nominee motion, do you wish to elect by acclamation or ballot? Sorry, this is I don't remember doing this. By acclamation, yes. Okay, all those in favor of Nicole Whalen as vice chair of the SVSU Board signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? The ayes have it. Nominations for clerk of the SVSU Board of Directors. Are there any nominations? Katie, you want it?
Well, I'm the other one. I might as well be this one too.
Who was the current?
Very
Were you-
efficient.
No, I was the current clerk.
I can pull it up and look for it.
Just.
She wants to do it again.
Poor Katie signed up to be clerk.
I didn't sign up. I
Nominated to
signed
be-
me up.
I nominated her to be clerk at the board.
That was me.
It's like the only time that we had like 4 letters that needed to be.
It was
Like-
Susan.
Oh, Susan,
Oh,
okay.
right.
So that seat is, obviously it's open.
Okay.
It's like we have one nomination.
Has there been a
Did
formal
you nominate
nomination?
yourself?
Do we?
That's okay.
We need a formal nomination for.
We should
Katie,
let
if she's
Glenn
willing
do
to
it. He
serve.
loves to do that.
I would like to nominate Katie Aiken from Route 7 in Pownell this evening.
I'll second that nomination.
We have a nomination by Glenn and a second by Jeff. If a single nominee in motion, do you wish to elect by acclamation? Yes.
Yes.
So all those in favor of Katie Aiken as the clerk of the SVSU Board of Directors, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? And any abstentions? Up next, we have committee assignments. Do we do that?
I know with Scott with the elementary board, we're just provisional until we have,
Until we have a seat.
to our next meeting. And then if we increase our numbers,
It's true, because we've got, are all of the seats for the SVSU board?
No, so the MEU did elect
Yes.
their 3 representatives, so
MEU has
you're
3.
full as far
Things like
as
that.
the other districts go, except SVU ESD is just kind of a temporary. They carried over the previous folks.
Oh, so
and
your seat in here is temporary?
Yeah.
so. Because we're still down, I think, 3 people.
Oh,
Maybe
2 panel and
Woodford,
Woodford.
Woodford and Shasta, 4 people.
Oh, no, so not a Woodford.
We're working at
No,
Shaftesbury.
Shaftesbury.
It's Betsy.
Yeah, Shasbury, Pownell, Woodford, down 3. Or 5 out of 8.
So I might suggest if it's okay with the board, tabling committee nominations until the next meeting when we're a little more certain of the full cast on the SU board, and then we can go forward from there.
Sounds good.
Right. So that exhausts the first section of our agenda tonight, which was the reorganization of board and appointments to committees, which will be tabled until the next meeting. Okay, so section A of item 1 is the procedure for executing contracts. I'm looking for a motion to authorize the superintendent or his or her designee to execute on behalf of the school district purchase orders, agreements for consulting services, grant agreements, and other contracts arising affecting the routine operation of the Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union. The superintendent or designee shall not execute any contracts resulting from a public bid process, any employment agreements, and any long-term contracts without the express authority of the board. So I need a motion to,
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And any abstentions? Right, thank you.
Thank you.
And then item B, authorization of chair and vice chair to approve off-cycle warrants. Is there a statement that needs to be read with that?
No, just the board granting the authority for you to do so. And we do typically have them occasionally, so some boards have them more regularly, like they're routinely twice a month. But the SVSU board is kind of more hit and miss as far as the off-cycle warrants go.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to authorize the chair and vice chair to approve those off-cycle warrants as needed.
So moved.
Second.
So a motion by Ray and a second by Christelle. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Any abstentions?
Just an observation, that probably means we're authorizing them to do a online warrant signature. Correct?
We actually have just been using digital.
Digital, that's what I mean, yeah.
And not even necessarily signing, we've been using the email coming
Right.
back saying with their authorization as the temporary approval until we have the
Okay,
whole packet come to the whole board.
okay,
So so that's a good, it's temporary until it ends up getting signed by the whole board.
yes. It gets ratified, that's the way I think of it, ratification.
Item 2 on the agenda is public comments.
There's
No one online and there's nobody in the room. Item 3 is finance, which is the treasurer's report. It had been a while since we met, so it was December 2023, January 24, and February 2024 to be posted. And we need
You
a
want to
motion.
do this all as 3 together, or do you want to do them individually?
If the board would be okay, I would propose doing them as all 3 together.
I'll move that we approve the treasurer's report from December 2023, January 2024, and February 2024.
So we have a motion by Ray. Do we have a second?
So when somebody's presenting it, will they specify which month it was? If it's all together?
It would.
Yeah,
Uh,
if there's
just-
concerns, you can just bring them up.
Yeah.
Or we'll do them all at once instead of one at a time.
Right, that just
Okay.
speeds up
Yeah.
the process here.
Right.
That's
But we
fine.
can certainly, if it's the wish of any board member, we could break them out and look into them.
In point of fact, if you look at the January one, you have the picture of the history
Mhm.
because it's basically encapsulated. It shows you where you are at that point in time. And if you you could go back and, sorry, not January, February. You go back to January, December and tie those off to the February. So that's what I did. I looked at February.
Right.
There's plenty of cash there. Definitely not cash for.
So we have a motion by Ray. I'm not sure I got an official second.
I'll second it.
And a second by Jeff. Any discussion? All those in favor of moving the treasurer's report from December 23, January 2024, and February 2024?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, on to policies, which is on the agenda, but there are none to approve.
So we have minutes.
Yeah.
That's
It's in the consent.
That's in consent. That's item 5.
Sorry.
And then item 5 on the agenda is consent agenda, which is minutes, warrants, leave of absence, retirements, resignations, and nominations. There was quite the list there. And part, certainly because of the duration since we've had our last meetings. If the board would be okay, I would propose moving all of those, moving the consent agenda as one item to include minutes, warrants, leave of absence, retirements, resignations, and nominations.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have 2 talking points. There's a Ben-El counselor and a Ben-El art teacher. Should that be in the elementary board packet versus the SVSU packet? I think they're elementary board members, not SVSU employees.
I think it's just a kind of a procedural thing. Amy's been including them all on the SU, just so the SU board is
Yeah,
aware.
'cause I haven't seen them on the elementary packet, so.
They may,
They-
We still on the consent agenda, and
Yes.
forgive me for walking in, I noticed one inaccuracy on there in Pownell that you've got. She's down as a nomination when she's a resign. Chantel, thank you.
So,
I mean, I don't mind approving it. I just want to make sure that if it is a, SVSU elementary employee, that we're doing the right stuff. Because we don't hire,
we don't want to rehire that. Yeah.
I can find out.
yeah, and I don't mind
Yeah.
putting the next month too,
Yes.
just to double check.
Okay, sure.
So,
There's a lot of, because when the paras moved a few years ago from vocal to the SU.
Yeah.
it's
this is
kind of
an art
confusing.
teacher, so it's different.
Yeah, true, very true.
Yeah, because the para, it's okay, because I know where they go, but it's the art and school counselor. The rest are, looks like SVSU employees,
School counselor and our teacher.
guidance, speech
Right.
language
Speech
pathologist. So
Speech.
just making sure.
Good catch.
Sorry.
And Glenn, good catch.
Thank you. I do read them.
So let's read this time.
So I think, where we leave off, had a motion and a second.
We need a consent agenda with revision.
Yes, well, I'll make it with revisions. And the revisions are that we're excluding those folks that are, look like they belong to SVU, ESB, or non-active. Okay.
And the
Chantel.
error of Chantel.
Right.
She was here, she was
That's in the
here.
resignation part,
She
not
did
the nomination.
work here, but she has since resigned, so.
Okay, so I amend my motion to accept the correction on a nomination to become a resignation for Chantel Blink. And that we eliminate nominations and resignations for persons who were employed by MAU or SVU, ESP, or Arlington District, if there are any. I don't think there were.
No, not on this one.
Do we have a second to raise amended? Second raise amended.
Motion. Any further discussion?
I just want to thank Margaret Phelps for her 26 years of service, because she is retiring, so it's just one of those things you should acknowledge. And she's a very specialist down there in town, like interventionist.
Yes,
So,
she's a title intervention.
Yep. long time in the district.
Long time. We have a motion and a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Katie.
Yeah, I got it. I'm on it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item 6 is the superintendent's report.
Hello, everyone. So nice to see you. And some of you are going to hear something similar that I presented earlier this month. We are required, you ready? Yep. So it's grant season, and it's super important that it's a great message to hear if you've already heard it once again, but we also want our community to hear that watch this particular board meeting, because that's part of our federal requirement is to do community shares about the work that we do with grants. And, just for my last presentation, I'm out of practice. Just in case you didn't read it last time. It's a little bit different though. This is the big picture one. This is
Your
the
last one, how could you be out of practice?
It's just big picture, so you don't see. It's been a walking 7 days. So you can think about it through a different lens. Annually, this is after you all finish budget season, we start grant season. And it's important that we want to spend time with all of you to make sure that you have updated information about our grant funding work, and that our community as well is hearing this message. And so the SVSU is in the final stages of spending down ESSER 3, which is part of the American Rescue Plan ARP ESSER funding. ESSER 3 expires on September 30th, 2024, and is over $17 million that we were able to access. So as a reminder, changes, because we have been required to give this presentation the last 3 years to you. And so when you think about this through the lens of just the SVSU big picture, the only changes are in red. But again, I do want to highlight for anyone in the audience that's watching that this money has been incredibly useful to update our after-school programming, our summer programming, the professional learning that we offer that is determined by all of our curriculum teams and our professional learning team. We offered a lot of professional learning around behavior and social emotional learning. We actually are at a place right now where we're just funding, and this is a great thing for the SVSU to understand. I'm going to pull right out of their trauma cohort that jumps out at me. We started 3 years ago with hiring a trauma trainer to train designated staff, and now we have trainers in the district, which is always your goal with grant money, that you're building intercapacity. So we now have people that have been trained over the course of the last 3 years and are now being accessed by our schools to provide training in trauma. So that's just a great example of how grant money should be used to build background, and then we build intercapacity. The red, Renee?
Well, I don't know if you want to speak to the technology piece before I jump into.
So the technology, again, was very specific to your boards. So all 3 of your boards, there were some last minute purchases that we were able to pull out of local, during the local budget season that we can access ESSER money for, which helped all of the local budgets. And so we're making those final purchases that were requested using this money, because we can align it to the requirements of the grant.
And all along, when we were talking about HVAC optimization projects, it wasn't just the construction that we had in there, it's actually the engineering is being supported by the ESSER funds too. So I just wanted to clarify and added that to the list.
Can I just ask if something like technology, during the budget process was pulled out of one budget so that it could be covered here. That means potentially this money being used in another way, in a different way for one of the districts within the SU. I guess long way to get to, if you pull it out for technology
Out of local budget.
out of a local budget, then this money can't be used for something else, perhaps within a local budget. And does that if it's pulled out of the elementary budget, if say $10,000 is pulled out of the elementary budget.
Yeah.
Does this, I guess I've maybe answered my own question, so I'm gonna confuse myself.
Can I give you an example let me give you a really targeted example. There was a request at the element, because we have updated curriculum materials now to support different curriculum areas. The tech requirement to access the curriculum has increased. And so it was a beautiful match to be able to go back to this money to get the tech upgrade we needed so we could run the new curriculum. So teachers could actually have high functioning technology to run whatever the program was.
Yeah, I guess if this isn't, if I'm thinking of this as an SVSU grant, and then something gets pulled out of a local budget, and making sure that it's fair for
Absolutely.
that local budget, whether it's Arlington, the elementary
Yes.
school district, the MAU,
Yes,
that it's a dollar for dollar
it was,
switch, so that
Yeah.
one of those other budgets couldn't, or one of those other boards couldn't say, we feel like you've taken grant money for that, given it to all of those,
Yes.
and we don't have it for what we need.
so you gave a great example, and we try to be super conscious of that, which is why, like, the infrastructure around having curriculum teams is super important, because on a curriculum team, or even a trauma team, which has representation, so this applies for social emotional as well, we bring together our professionals from across the district to make decisions, and then we base our purchases at the district level on the decisions of those groups, so it's distributive of, just like you're saying. So I love that you're saying that through this lens. So Renee and I really try to listen to what's coming out of those teams so that we're making sure that it's equitable, like it's definitely equitable across our district, both ways. So I say equal and equitable. Trying to think about how I was going to say that, but yes, that is a consideration when we're looking at our grant money. So it's a great question for this board to ask us.
And those tech upgrades are going to be seen in SVU ESD schools, Arlington schools, and Mount Anthony. So it's
So that's
supporting.
ESSER fund filling the gaps in those local level.
Correct.
It's not like you're transferring funds from building and
No.
grounds to technology.
Nope,
So it's
no.
completely different.
So when, very early on in the budget process, I was getting inundated with requests, and I actually don't even think it made it into the SVU ESD first draft of the budget, because we knew we were gonna try to
Use
access
the money.
this money across the board for all of the, for all of the schools.
Yeah. So our goal is always to get as much input as we can from across the district and from the field to make sure that we're being really representative. And make sure,
I loved, you said something a minute ago that stuck with me, and I don't think I had heard it that way before, or if I had, it went over my head. And that is that one of the main goals of grant money is to fund something that we could then use to be our own, to support ourselves down the road.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to know a little bit more about how technology falls into that, because I feel like down the road, technology is obsolete.
Uh-huh.
And so is it clearly it's something that would needed to be spent, and I understand, but are
Yes.
you getting the most out of the dollars if you're putting them toward technology?
I have an example for you. So let's go to title. Great questions. This is wonderful. We're gonna go on to title because I can touch upon that for you. So we'll go down to here. Oh, no, it's there. It's the opening. So our title funding this year, so we haven't gotten our allotment for this year yet. They have not shared with us. Anyone in the state has received their allotment. So we received this past year a little over $4 million that covers Title I, Title II, and Title IV. And so you can see in there how at the supervisory union level and in your own individual presentations, you got to see individually what it looked like for each school. So these are some of the investments that we have that cover the entire district, like tutoring, family engagement, events linked to math and ELA, a trauma drumming residency, college and career readiness activities, art, music, and then the different coaches that are available to everyone. Title IV is our funny pocket of title money. And Title IV is all around, it has 3 buckets. The first bucket is well-rounded education. The second bucket is safe and healthy schools, thank you. And the third bucket is technology. But, so Renee and I have a funny little spreadsheet in Title IV, and the technology piece is super interesting because the very thing you said, we're only allowed, is it 15%? Yeah, one-time tech purchase. So once ESSER expires, you're really not going to see us accessing a lot, unless it's a one-time grant for technology expenses, because our rolling grants like Title and IDEAB, they'll let you on an annual basis renew memberships to like Lexia, which is something that we have in our district that supports literacy. There's some robotics technology that's happening that we could use Title IV from, and that actually could happen on a more annual basis. They really push back on us with our rolling annual grants to purchase technology. And it's called a one-time purchase, and we are only allowed to use, we have a formula we have to use to figure out what you could, and so we don't. So ESSER was
Unique.
thank you. That's a great word. So I hope that gives you an example. It's really not, they don't really like to anymore have us purchase hardware. But software is definitely where they'd rather see it. And robotics, again, is a great example that we've been able to do. So hopefully that helps a little bit. And if you ever want to see the language around that in Title IV, we'd be happy to come back or as we get into it. But that's a great question. And so sliding right from title into IDEAB, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Act to support the provision of services for learners with identified disabilities. We receive over 1.5 million, and that goes more towards human beings. Although, because we're talking about it, there are like the Learning Allies software. So there's an example of a software that we can get on an annual basis that helps provide access to students' education. And so, but for the most part, it's human beings. And then the last 2 big grants that we work from are the Medicaid rolling reimbursement. And you can see, again, primarily Medicaid is often targeted for prevention. A lot of our Medicaid money in the SVSU, you can see goes towards our audiology services and trauma therapy. And then our last big grant is our MAC grant, which we just submitted. And about annually, we receive around $128,000. And again, we have an SVSU Health and Wellness team that works closely with the Department of Health to designate health and wellness activities to try out over the year. Right now, we have a group of phys ed teachers that we had an investment in the MAC grant, and they're trying to create pop-up events around the district. Just pop up, learn how to play pickleball. Pop up, let's learn how to line dance. Pop up, let's. So it's something different and new, but this is that pocket of money that helps to pay professional staff to put these ideas together and to gather materials for kids to use. So our goal for tonight is to let anybody that's watching know that they are welcome to reach out to me, Laura Boudreau, the Assistant Superintendent, and I can be reached here at Central Office at 802-447-7501 or through my email, which is lboudreau@svsu.org. Again, we love collecting ideas for grants. There is a title grant on our website that you can access as well. And we appreciate your time as a board tonight. We wanted to give you an update of where we are in grant season.
Moving into item 7 on the agenda, Chair's report. I'd like to thank the board for trusting me with another year of oversight of the SU board. I feel like with most things, until you see a full cycle, you're not going to really be full stride. And I'm excited to embark on a second year of this, to really having seen many of the processes and hopefully pulling the board together to continue to do some great work. I think I left the last election feeling a little more entrenched in my views that probably we as a board and collective group of boards needs to really have a look at how the structure of this SU is laid out, and is it the most efficient way to be operating these schools within our districts. Too many open seats. One could argue too many people filling seats on multiple boards, because without that, there would be too many open seats for maybe even the boards to function. And that's something that I think is being felt not only here, but across the state. And I know it is something that Nicole and I have spoken with Superintendent Colkeen about. I know that it is something that we're going to continue to challenge him with, is how this is addressed both at the on the individual board level, and then also just the most efficient way to operate our SU, to get the most out of the resources that we're putting into the SU and get the most for the students within the SU. And that's going to definitely be a focus of mine over the course of the next 12 months as we move through this year together. There'll be more to come. And I know on the elementary side, and I don't know whether there was an update at the last meeting, being that I'm no longer sitting on that board, but there has been a little bit of a study, I believe, or is in process with the New England.
But yes.
And I was just, I'm interested to hear what they come back with on the elementary level, because I think that probably there'll be some things that we can either pull from, or perhaps engage with them on an overall district level for the operation of our schools. Beyond that, I don't have.
And just let you know, there's a new Secretary of Education, Lily Saunders, so we don't know what she has in store. So we'll find out after April 16th when she starts.
Yes. And any other, so moving into item 8 on the agenda, other business. Do we have any other business?
I could use some feedback. We talked I'm the chair of the Arlington board for this upcoming year, and I talked about how many consecutive years we've been in reactive mode. For Arlington, it was the Act 46 study, and then it was COVID, and then, we have just kind of been rolling from one major thing to the next, and wanted to get our board back to a more forward-looking, strategic-looking, getting the board back to functioning at a level that a board probably should be functioning at. And I don't know how you guys handle onboarding new board members, how you handle or have experienced some of that strategic planning, future planning, how you cover roles and responsibilities for board members. I mean, I kind of feel like it's an opportunity to reset what we do and how we do it, and in a way get our board out of the minutia of what's happening and function more as a governing board And I would take any input or advice on how you have done this within your local districts, or if you have any recommendations on how to pivot the focus.
Well, I can tell you that, the Vermont School Board Association,
Yeah.
they've been really helpful. They have a lot of like webinars and whatnot. Sometimes they send different packets to help, new onboard staff. So, I don't know, did you have the same experience you had?
Yeah, I got a
right?
tremendous amount of information
Yeah.
from them. You sign up for their email lists. You'll get 2 or 3 a week about current topics.
I'm on that and I get those. And they have their new board member packet. And I mean, I honestly think that it's a matter of kind of going back to the basics. Here's the role and responsibility of the board. Here's what the board should be focused on. How can we take that into some bigger picture, future
If there's a
planning?
word that I could maybe put out that would help surmise it is coming to consensus.
Yeah.
Because what I've learned on being on 2 boards for the past year is that we've all got, sometimes very different views on stuff, but you respect somebody else's opinion, you listen to the thoughts that went into making that opinion, and everybody can kind of roll around with coming to consensus for what's best for the kids, because it's not about us.
Question is, do we need to go back to some type of new mission statement? Because really, I think what you're saying is for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been in constant transition.
Yeah.
And so where do we stand now after Act 46 merge, right? What's our mission for our community and our education?
Well, that's a great, I think that's maybe connecting to what I was just saying, for us as a board and what I'm gonna be thinking a lot about over the next several months, but I've been on, like you, Nicole, and like you, Jeff, and Ray, certainly, and perhaps, I'm not sure about the others on the call or in the meeting, but I've been on since pre-COVID, and was on started out as the Shaftesbury School Board, Shaftesbury Elementary School Board, which then merged to the Elementary School Board. I was given the resources from the school board, from the Vermont School Board Association, and I met with Jim. And beyond that, there's the annual training for School Boards Association, but beyond that, there wasn't a lot of training. It was more you're stepping in, business is happening, and you're a part of it suddenly. And I think you bring a good point, in that we've been so long in reactive mode, we haven't necessarily even been able to think in a strategic way like what I just described.
Yeah.
Both on a SU level or individual board level, to the point where even after the merger, we didn't do any, we did very little bold. We were not able to do a lot of bold moves at on the elementary school level, board level.
Can I add one?
Yeah.
And Nicole, I know you and I have talked a little bit.
Yep.
So it's just timely that you're having this discussion, because we just spent the last year updating our continuous improvement plan for the district with the district, and then all the schools updated their continuous improvement plans for the next 3 years. And that was a year worth of reflecting, looking at data, and we're presenting that to all the boards next month. And I'm hoping that will spark some really targeted conversations. I really appreciate, Glenn, too, what you said about with the kids in mind first, because that's why we're here. And hopefully that will be a piece of what you're looking for in terms of finding direction, is hearing what the outcome was. We just met with the Agency of Education today to review all the drafts. So I'm looking forward to bringing the work of this entire district forward, and that might help with some next steps as well.
I think it'd be interesting, because like I said, there's some positions, these qualified behavior specialists. Most of us sitting here probably don't know what those people are, except for probably one person in the corner there. But, I think it's worth knowing who are we hiring? What are the qualifications of these positions? Because a lot have developed over the last 5 years out of reaction. It'd be nice to know who are we hiring for these positions, what are their qualifications, and just have a breakdown of this is what teachers need, this is what special educators need, just what are the hiring pieces? Because there's a lot of positions, I still don't know what we're hiring for.
Data and efficacy too. You know, okay, we have this position, what is that position doing? Is it giving us a measurable positive result in the data, or is it creating a negative result? Because it can go either way in certain instances.
I mean, I think that's what you're looking at across the state now, is a lot of people are beginning to question, where's our money going in education? I mean, I think if I remember Dana during negotiations, she presented some information. I know I've asked as a board member, I've yet to get, but she gave it to the negotiation committee about, people on emergency licenses, how many are on emergency licenses? How many kids are reading proficient? These are all questions I've asked and haven't gotten it, but yet in this negotiation, she presented it. So I think we have to get back to how are kids doing? What's our staff look like, and where are these jobs that we're approving?
Well, I was on the continuous improvement plan committee for Arlington, and having seen some of that documentation, I think a lot of what you're talking about, when those goals come out for each district, then the district boards should, in theory, be building their goals on top of that. What do the boards need to do to support the schools to be able to accomplish these goals? And then the SU should really have the next level of what do we need to do to be able to support the districts, to support the administrators? And if some of that is data reporting to say, we need data to understand how this is going to impact the operations, then I think that's where that ask gets documented and then tracked. We are spending money in these areas, and we're going to track the efficiency of how that money is being spent.
And if I recall from the elementary board meeting, I believe Bennington Cares was asking if they could have some sort of form or presentation to understand what the data is, so that way they could help present it to the community also. If I recall, I think that's what she said, right? Yeah.
But I mean, we all get given data, but do we actually understand the data?
Yeah.
If you're not, like, that education, I spent physical, data from my job, it means nothing to any of you guys. I think Len could do the same thing. He understands some of the teaching data, and he can look at it and go, oh, red flag, not red flag.
And, there's a language that goes with what you do. There's a language that goes with behavior. Everybody's got a niche and a nuance. It's different. So pull your talents, you're better as a collective, and everybody trying to understand. I can certainly speak to that end of it.
Yeah, and there's a point where we're an oversight board here to support. What we have to work through is figuring out where the line gets drawn between our getting into every single bit of minutia and detail, which is not the role of the board, and where we do want to be involved on that. And I think we should be looking at we should be setting the overall mission for the boards, our individual boards, or this district. Really, the individual boards should be, it should be a waterfall, in my view, but we could debate that. And we set that vision, we set that mission, and we figure out what are the triggers or the data that we want to pay attention to see that vision and mission is being met, or the goals that are being accomplished to see that vision and mission is being met. And then trust that the other things below it that are working toward making that happen are happening, because if the overall goals are being met, then I'm saying this to just caution the board, and that what we're here to do is to set the mission, set the direction, and trust the people that we have.
And have the tracking mechanism in place to ensure
To ensure that
that the
those
vision and the mission and the goals are being accomplished.
Yes,
Yeah,
We're here to make sure the schools run, but not run the schools.
correct.
But we need to have the information to make sure that they're running according to what the public is giving money to. You know, can't free will spend money and not get results. I mean, no business runs like that.
so I guess, I listened to one of the VSBA webinars that they did on onboarding new board members. And the Taconic and Green, I don't know how many other districts throughout the state, they use a policy governance model, which is very intentional to keep boards out of trying to run the schools and to keep them on a bigger picture strategic level. We had started that with Arlington, started the process of understanding what policy governance looks like, considering whether or not it was the right fit for us, and then Act 46 happened, and then COVID happened, and then,
And your merger happened.
yeah. So I don't know, something like that would really have to be, if it was going to be considered, would have to be SU and then all of the cascading member districts to consider something like that. It's a pretty massive undertaking that I think would fit with what you're talking about, Scott, which is you set your governance model, you identify what your end goals are, what your end policies are, and then you have monitoring reports that track all of that. And it keeps the boards functioning at the level that they should be functioning at, as long as that infrastructure is in place.
Right.
You know,
Because currently, what I feel, being on two boards and then this one, is they're all working toward things that are completely probably appropriate. We're each working on things that are completely appropriate, but not necessarily with much overlap or continuity with one another, or direction back to this SU board and the functions that we have outlined too. So yes, your point, the point of the waterfall.
I think for our next meeting, my plan is really to do a basic, to kind of go back through an onboarding, to talk about the roles and responsibilities of boards and how you run, what is appropriate open meeting law protocol, how you can't, like, really just sort of go back to basics, because I think without that, it's easy to migrate to getting lost in the weeds.
Well, I got one other thing too, because I know what's up. I did kind of stick this on Laura. With the eclipse coming up, there's been a lot of talk about schools closing. I think another school just went to a half day this
Okay.
week, with expectation that the eclipse can happen during dismissal times.
Okay.
With what coming up?
The solar eclipse. A lot of schools are going to half day or no school that day, especially up north. I think over like Brattleboro area, they just announced it recently. They're going half days. Just because they're supposed to occur at the same time, dismissals. And you know, we're gonna have lots of kids, if they're not wearing their glasses, they're looking up at the solar eclipse, which they're going to do. You know, who's a monitor to that, especially if they're on buses. So, you know, just there are some safety concerns because they're talking about, you know, traffic, increased traffic, and it being like 96% dark during dismissal time.
Okay.
You know, what's the plan for the district to keep our kids safe?
I had emailed Jim about that last week because it had come up at a local level for our.
Yeah, I
He
mean,
said it was being discussed with the
Yeah.
principals.
I mean, I know it keeps kind of, you know, it keeps being schools going half day as more, as it gets closer.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that, you know, it's on the radar as at least as a board for safety.
We have glasses.
What?
We have glasses for
Yeah,
everybody.
making sure the kids are wearing the glasses on the bus, so they won't burn their retinas, because it takes 3 minutes. And I know my kid would be on the bus without the glasses, I can't see through these, and look up. Especially the elementary level, she will be on that.
Any other business? Then we get a motion to adjourn. Second? All those in favor? Opposed? Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.